Mic is open.
All right.
You should hit start now.
Okay.
Because you're live.
All right.
Technically, everywhere.
I hope I know enough about Chase Hughes to talk for 28 minutes. It's nice to meet you. I feel like I'm ready. Hello, this is Sue. Welcome to Fireside Chat. It feels so good to be in the studio again. I'm so happy to be here. I wanted to talk about one of the most interesting people that I've been reading and watching lately on YouTube and things like that. Highly recommend him. His name is Chase Hughes, and he is a behavioral expert, and he's really good at commenting on body language, and his background is in military and intelligence work. So he has written books. He has written about human behavior profiling, and human observation. He's very good at that sort of thing. He's incredibly compelling and interesting to listen to and to watch. And so he's been making the rounds the last couple of years, really, on people's podcasts and on network shows. But he is one of the 4 experts on the behavior panel that is this guy, he's like human behavior and military. So the other 3 guys that are on the show, Mark Bowden is an expert in, I forget what he's an expert in, but I know he's been hired by members of the G7. And Scott Rouse and Greg, I forget his last name, they both have programs in body language and things like that, reading people, and, they kind of like comment on different, celebrities and newsworthy incidents. So, for example, if there was like a big court case, then they would talk about like blink rate, and they would talk about like where people look with their eyes when they're saying certain comments or statements, how they're reacting with their breathing to questions, and things that they are comfortable talking about, and very much the difference when they are uncomfortable talking about someone, that people act completely different and it's unconscious. So we don't control our blink rate, so it's something that you can count. Normal blink rate is something like whatever their baseline is, right? So you can ask the person about something they're really comfortable talking about, and then count how many times they blink, or just notice what their usual blink rate is. And then if you talk about something that is sort of sensitive to them, whether they show it or not, whether they want to hide it or not, they blink faster. And so if you want to kind of just notice the next time someone is, say, being questioned about something that they're uncomfortable about, and they're trying to hide how they feel, it's really, it's fascinating to see how much they blink. Like, they just blink a lot more. And I think it's because of the cognitive load of having to try to cover something up, or to the way that they have to cognitively think about, how am I going to mask this, or how am I going to deflect? How am I going to not say the thing that I cannot say because that would give me away, or that would make me admit to the crime? So it's really interesting watching breathing and blink rate, because those things can be incredibly telling. If you watch, like, say, a suspect being questioned, just to sort of like for your own interest, like, let me just see if I can tell if this person, if you're in a room in a meeting and you just want to know, like, the person who's giving the presentation, are they comfortable? Like, how confident are they? And in one of the most recent shows that I watched by him, he's on different people's podcasts. A really good episode was him on this podcast by this guy. I forget this guy's name. He's like, I forget his name, but I'll have to put some, different podcasts that Chase has been on. Also, Chase has written books, and I think he probably has like video programs that you can watch. He's really cute, and he has beautiful eyes, and so he's really fun to watch. So, one of the things he said is that your childhood, especially if it's traumatic or difficult, it kind of like shapes or comes out in adult behavior. So he says that what you went through in your childhood, it has a lot to do with what you are seeking now, whether you're aware of it or not. So if you're someone who had a childhood where they were just ignored and you were just taken for granted, that like no one really included what you felt or took your opinions or your preferences into account, that you were just there, you were just kind of ignored and not loved or not paid attention to, you could, as you become an adult, you could seek attention or seek validation or seek like things like you want to be admired, you want to be respected, want to be loved, and you want to be chosen. Like all of these things can come about because you're in a deficit and you're trying to, first of all, you think that you're in control and that others can't see that you need these psychological things. But a trained person, someone who's trained in profiling or behavioral science like Chase, would be able to figure out by asking you just a few questions or listening to how you're talking, he could figure out, oh, this person really wants admiration, or this person is they want respect. And I feel like I said something not too long ago. I said something like, did I do a good job, or am I doing all right? And so I think what I was looking for there, just being really transparent here, is that I was looking for like approval. I was looking for, I guess, respect, but somehow more like, am I worthy? Am I good enough? Really, I think that's a huge theme for a lot of us. So Chase's core argument about that childhood shapes, masks, and what you're looking for as an adult, his core argument is that our early environments force us to develop what he calls adaptive behaviors. So essentially coping strategies that become so habitual that they calcify into personality traits or personas. A child who learned that being agreeable, going along, go with the flow, accepting whatever is going on around them, not complaining, not being controlling, just being agreeable, kept them safe. So perhaps they got upset one time, or they expressed their preference one time, and perhaps it was a violent or abusive household where they were mistreated because they spoke up, because they expressed their opinion. And so being agreeable keeps them safe, because if they say what they really feel, it's not going to be a good outcome. They're not going to be safe. They're not going to be allowed to just exist in this household. So being agreeable as a child because they had to might lead to an adult who never expresses conflicts, who wears like a peacekeeper mask that they no longer consciously choose. So the mask was once useful armor, but it just never got taken off. So just like in life, the person who is seeking admiration, say it's a celebrity, they're trying different things, maybe different outfits, maybe different roles, maybe different personas. They might speak a certain way or reveal a certain side of their personality where they they might kind of talk about what they are trying to, fill. There's something inside them that needs to be filled. And so they are sort of like, with their behavior and their words, whether conscious or unconscious, they're trying to elicit something from someone else. And sometimes you can tell, like a person who's like really power hungry and really needs to be admired, they'll go to a great deal of trouble to try to elicit what they're seeking, whether it's admiration or respect or whatever it is. So when Chase is like just observing, just in a room or at an airport or something like that, he talks about baseline behavior. So he's just observing when the person's comfortable about the topic, they're relaxed, they're talking about something they know really well, or they're talking about something that's safe for them. You want to see what's normal for them, what their baseline is. With their breathing, with their blink rate, with their tone, with their where do their eyes go, how fast are they talking, what kinds of filler words are they using, how smooth is their delivery. Because if they're not anxious and cognitively trying to prevent something or limit something from coming out, they're going to be really smooth in their delivery, in their thoughts, everything is just going to flow. Whereas if they're trying to prevent something from happening, trying to mask something, trying to hide something, they have to go to a great deal of trouble to try to figure out oh, I can say this, but I can't say that. How am I doing? How are people reacting to me? Am I getting across? Am I fooling people? Am I getting away with this? All of those questions are in their mind. And also, what should I say next? And what should I say? And what should I not say? Is there something else I'm forgetting? All of these thoughts are competing at the same time. And that's why they're just inside their head. They are just overloaded with cognitively trying to keep everything, going well. And that's really hard to do. So there's these unconscious tells that you can see that they are having a really hard time trying to fool everyone, right? Or trying to mask something that they don't want revealed. He also talks about, so first you read baseline behaviors, right? And then you start spotting what's different. You start spotting what is different from that baseline, and then notice what topic was that person was talking about. What topic are they trying to avoid? Is there something that they're uncomfortable talking about? You watch to see where their eyes are going and who they're looking at, and if they're looking down or if they're looking right at you, or if they're confident or if they're, kind of quiet and they don't really want to say much because they don't want to give something away. And sometimes people who are trying to not say something that's really in a sense dangerous for them to say, they can go like this a lot, like this, as if they're literally sealing their mouth so that they don't say the wrong thing. So he's also said that when, if you watch people coming into, say, a meeting, you want to see who moves the slowest. The person who moves the slowest is the most comfortable with themselves, psychologically, because they have the most control over their emotions, their thoughts, their attitudes. They have the most control. So that kind of control, it sort of gives them an ease with themselves. It gives them a kind of a comfort level that can be apparent to people in a room, because usually people walk into a room, they're like, oh, I have to talk and I have to socialize and I have to put on this part of me that's social and extroverted, and I have to keep up with this conversation, and I have to, pull my weight in this discussion, and I have to. So basically their energy is ramping up, right? So you want to watch who in the room is the most comfortable and who's saying the least in a way. And usually, like the leader, the one who's like the born leader that other people defer to, they are very comfortable speaking last because they want other people to have the floor in a sense, right, for most of the time. And they also they sort of like are comfortable listening to what other people feel in the room. So it's kind of like he's reading the room the whole time. And then when it's his turn to speak, when everyone else has spoken, then he gets this amazing read of what the others feel, what they're interested in, what they don't like. And then he can factor that into what he's going to say. So it is actually a really good thing to talk last, definitely. But like that's if you get a chance to speak, because sometimes people get into a group or even with one-on-one and they just never stop talking. And that's like the most annoying kind of person you can possibly meet. So slowness and as confidence is that people who move deliberately and slowly, speak slowly, move slowly, are often generally comfortable or high status. Nervous people fidget, they speed up, they over gesture, they over talk. So calm, slow movement signals that someone doesn't feel threatened by the environment. They don't feel like nervous and wondering if they're, doing the right thing or saying the right thing or if they're saying enough or whatever. They're not like worried about what everyone else thinks. It doesn't matter to them. So also people who face outward. So confident people in a room tend to position themselves with their back to a wall and face the room, not because they're tactical and they're afraid of somebody coming up behind them and hurting them, but because anxious people tend to minimize their exposure by facing inward or away. And it's true because when I was first doing shows, I definitely couldn't look at the camera. And so I would be like this. I would be focusing on my notes or whatever, and I wouldn't be able to even handle that there were 9 cameras in this room. And oh God, that was just crazy. So after 200 shows, you get to be a bit more comfortable about the cameras, and you actually enjoy talking to the camera and having people in the studio to talk with and to crash other people's shows. I've done that too. I just did that today. And so it's really fun. So who faces outward? Because anxious people are going to face they're going to be inward or away. Also, minimal adaptation. So just like people who are confident, they move slowly, they also don't fidget and have to keep moving and adjusting their posture and shaking their leg or whatever, those kinds of things that people do. They don't need to adjust their posture because they don't have to check their phone. They don't have to signal that they're busy or important or that they are, the highest ranking person in the room. People tend to have an internal comfort rather than performed confidence. Completely different to be inner confident. And when, you're alone in a room and you're just reading or, you're just sort of looking out the window, you have this confidence that doesn't change depending on who's in the room or if there is anyone in the room. The confidence is like an internal feeling of comfort that that when you walk into a room, you can handle whatever happens, that no matter who is in the room or what's going on in the room, you can deal with it, you can adapt, you can decide what you want to do. And you know what? Sometimes you have the confidence to walk out. So I just find that kind of thing really interesting. So Chase he's quite, he does a lot of training of military and of course corporate now as well because people are learning about his work. So Chase very interested, he likes to teach about, how a suspect will act and what will be their kind of tells if they're being interrogated or they're being interviewed. So he's really good at, commenting on is this person comfortable? Are they nervous? Are they trying to hide something? And so one of the things he also asks is, notice what a person is trying to project to you, what they want you to feel about them, right? So it might not be who they are, but they're trying to sort of convince you of something. They're trying to say to you, this is what I'm presenting to you, so please believe that this is who I am. And he can tell the difference whether a person is performative or whether that's their actual, baseline, their natural self, as opposed to this person that they want you to see. So his question is going to be like, why are they trying to convince me that this is who they are, this persona is who they are, and what are they trying to hide? And so once you figure that out, you can really get a lot of insight into what are they trying to project and what are they trying to hide, because that could be something that is their whole operating way of being, because they might be trying to hide a crime or a criminal background or whatever it is that they're trying to hide, and they're trying to convince you that, oh, I'm not like that at all. I'm like this. But you can see that the truth, in a sense, leaks out, right? So if you know what you're looking for, you can begin to see glimmers of truth in their behavior, because it's going to come out what they're trying to mask or prevent you from seeing. So I definitely want to talk about this more. I'll definitely have some more kind of like teaching points about behavior analysis and people that are really good at reading other people. I find that really interesting, and I'm really interested in psychology, but I don't have, any kind of like master's degree or anything like that. I just have a bachelor's, and I took a lot of psychology classes, but I just find it to be really interesting because you kind of want to know, like, who is this person that's in front of me? What do they want me to feel about them? And what are they trying to hide? Like, these things are really interesting. And so thank you for spending time with me, and I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. It's been super fun talking about this, because these are like my favorite things to look up on YouTube right now, is behavioral kind of analysis, body language, kind of the whole thing about what you can tell about people. And so, yeah, we'll talk about that some more. So thanks very much for listening and talking and all that. And I'll talk to you next time. Thank you.